My fiancée called off our wedding via a text message right after her ex invited her on a trip to Paris. In response, I sent her on an entirely different path, and now she's the one pleading to come back. I'm 31, my fiancée Lauren is 29, and we had been together for 3 years. We had been engaged for 8 months. The wedding was completely organized, with all deposits paid and invitations already sent out. We shared a condo that I own. I work in commercial real estate development, which involves long hours but provides steady income. Lauren works in marketing for a small fashion label. She places a high value on appearances, social standing, and how everything looks on the surface. That detail matters. For most of our time together, the relationship was okay. Not flawless, but steady. We had typical disagreements about finances, schedules, and her habit of turning minor issues into broad criticisms of my character. She has a very sharp way with words. I used to see it as intensity. Recently, I've started viewing it differently. Around 2 months before the wedding, her ex came back into the picture. The same ex she had always called immature and not up to her level. Apparently not beneath her enough to ignore his messages. She mentioned it to me in an oddly relaxed manner, as if she expected me to find it funny. I wasn't thrilled, but I didn't overreact. I trusted her, or at least I believed I did. In the following weeks, she became more protective of her phone. She wasn't openly hiding it, but she would tilt it away. She smiled at incoming messages. When I asked who she was messaging, she would reply, "Friends," in a tone that suggested I was already being difficult. Then last month, during an important investor meeting, I received a text from her. No heads up, no prior discussion. She was calling off the wedding, not suggesting a postponement or a conversation. The wedding itself through a text. The reason she gave was that she needed time to understand her emotions after her ex offered her a last-minute trip to Paris. That's when it hit me that I wasn't the one heading on any journey. I stared at the message for a full minute, wondering if my phone had malfunctioned. I read it 3 times because my mind kept trying to reinterpret it into something less ridiculous. She didn't suggest we talk. She didn't propose delaying things. She said she was ending the wedding because she needed to sort out her feelings, and her ex was offering Paris like it was a casual getaway. I tried calling her. It went straight to voicemail. I called again, voicemail. Then she texted back saying not to bombard her phone. She was overwhelmed. I was making things worse by needing space. That summed up Lauren perfectly. She would start the chaos and then complain about the fallout stressing her. I left work early, not to plead or fight. I just needed to understand the real situation. She was sitting on the couch with her laptop open, looking at flight options. She treated me like an unwanted distraction. She didn't even get up. She glanced at me as if I had entered the wrong room. Then she launched right in. She talked about how she had been carrying the relationship, how she didn't feel valued, how I was too practical and dull. How the Paris trip would help her gain perspective. She said it in a self-satisfied, light tone, like she was playing the lead in a film where the heroine walks away from the dependable guy. I asked just one question. Are you going to Paris with him? She rolled her eyes and told me I always made everything dramatic. She claimed it might be nothing more than a trip. That it didn't mean anything, that I was being insecure. Then she added that if I had been a stronger partner, she wouldn't even consider it. That was the moment everything became clear for me. Not heartbreak, just understanding. If someone can cancel a wedding by text because an ex dangles a plane ticket, then I wasn't about to marry my life partner. I was about to marry someone who looked great but carried major risks, so I told her calmly that she was free to go. But we were finished, and she wasn't returning to my place as if nothing had changed. She laughed, actually laughed. She said I couldn't just throw her out because she was taking a trip. That's when I realized she thought I was bluffing. Lauren truly believed I would calm down by the next day. That's how things had always played out before. She would push boundaries, say something harsh, and I would work to fix it. She expected the same pattern. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. Instead, I asked a straightforward question. Are you still planning to take this trip? She said yes, probably next week. She said it as casually as confirming a routine appointment. So I stated clearly that if she chose to go on a romantic getaway paid for by her ex just months before our wedding, then the engagement was over. And she needed to find new living arrangements right away. I reminded her that the condo was only in my name. She wasn't on the ownership papers. She paid toward utilities and groceries, but the mortgage and fees were mine. She smirked and called me transactional. She said I always reduced everything to agreements and practical matters. She claimed love isn't a rental contract. I agreed, but housing is. She tried to launch into a longer emotional talk about feeling trapped and how Paris might help her rediscover herself apart from me. I didn't engage with that. I asked again directly, are you going? She said yes. She said she deserved to feel desired. She stressed the word desired as if I had been denying her something essential. That gave me all the information I needed. I told her she had 24 hours to move out. Not out of rage, just practicality. She had a sister nearby and parents a short drive away. She also had friends who had encouraged her journey of self-discovery. There were clear options. I said I would give her the rest of the day and night to gather her essentials and make arrangements. Her face changed then. Not remorse, not sorrow, just irritation. She said I would really end 3 years over one trip. I said no. I was responding to her ending a marriage over one. She accused me of being cold. Maybe I was, but I wasn't going to compete with a vacation ticket, and I wasn't going to pay for the breakup of my own wedding. The next 24 hours were not filled with scenes. They were strained but organized. Lauren didn't cry, she didn't apologize. She switched between cold silence and little digs about how I was overreacting and showing why she needed space. I didn't argue back. I worked from my home office, handled my calls, and took real steps. First, I reached out to the venue and all the vendors, catering, photographer, florist, band. I asked what could be refunded and what couldn't. I didn't leave any room for maybe. I said the wedding was canceled. I preferred losing deposits over pretending this was fixable. Second, I spoke with my lawyer, not to cause more conflict, just to confirm my rights with the condo. She wasn't on the title. There was no shared living agreement, no joint finances. My lawyer said giving her notice was appropriate and that I should keep records of all communication in writing. So I sent a brief email summarizing what I had said, that the engagement was ended. that she needed to leave within 24 hours, that I would help arrange pickup of any remaining belongings within 2 weeks if necessary. Calm, factual, no personal attacks. When she saw the email, she lost her composure. She said I was embarrassing her, that I was treating her as if she had cheated when she hadn't technically done anything. She emphasized technically like it protected her. I told her I wasn't claiming anything physical had happened. I was reacting to her choices. Canceling our wedding by text and planning a trip to Paris with an ex was a clear decision. I was simply matching it. She moved into a superior attitude. She said I was being petty by tying housing to this. She said a secure man wouldn't feel threatened by a flight and a hotel. She presented it as if I was failing some test of strength. I didn't ask if the ticket was booked. I didn't need to. The wedding had already been called off. The message had been sent. The intention was obvious. At that point, my decision was firm. This wasn't really about Paris anymore. It was about the fact that she thought she could cancel our wedding, try another option, and still keep her place in my home as a safety net. I wasn't going to be the fallback plan with a mortgage. By that evening, she had packed 2 big suitcases and several bags. She moved around the condo like it was a place she had outgrown. Distant. Slightly bothered, she took her time in the bedroom. I stayed in the living room and let her handle it. I wasn't going to watch her pack like a guard. I trusted that she took only her things. I had no interest in dividing furniture or arguing over household items. Most things that mattered to me were already mentally released. Around midnight, she stood by the door with her bags and looked at me as if expecting me to change my mind. Some big emotional moment. A grand gesture. I offered none. She said, "This is insane, you realize that? All over one chance." I told her it wasn't one chance. It was a choice she had already made. I was simply accepting it. She shook her head and said I would regret this. That men like me don't get many women like her. That when she posted from Paris, I would see what I had lost. It was an odd pitch from someone walking away. I held the door open for her. That ended the in-person part. The next morning, I changed the door code to the condo and had her mail forwarded to her sister's address. I also removed her from our shared streaming services and the joint Costco account. Small steps but clear boundaries matter. I expected anger. I expected non-stop messages. Instead, there was quiet for about 48 hours. Then her Instagram story appeared. Airport lounge. Champagne glass. Caption about choosing herself. That's when the situation became more calculated for me. Because if she wanted an adventure, I was about to give her a completely different experience. I didn't react to her story. I didn't reply. I didn't send anything indirect. I simply observed long enough to confirm what I knew. Airport lounge. Champagne glass. Caption about choosing herself. That was the last thing I saw from her. Right after that, I blocked her. Phone number first, then Instagram, then Facebook. I removed her from LinkedIn too, since she liked to manage her image there. I wasn't interested in watching her experiment, and I wasn't going to let her contact me while she tested if Paris felt better than what we had. Blocking wasn't driven by emotion. It was practical. If she had ended the wedding by text, she didn't get continued access to me while traveling. Then I finished handling every remaining detail. I contacted the venue and got written confirmation that our date was released. I did the same with the other vendors. Anything that could be refunded went back to my account since I had paid all the deposits. I tracked everything in a spreadsheet. Losses noted. Clean records. I also sent a short message to our guest list. The wedding will not be happening. Thank you for your understanding. No details, no drama. I wasn't going to get drawn into gossip or defend myself in group chats. Then I contacted the jeweler and started the return for the engagement ring. It was within the return window. That refund alone covered most of the lost deposits. I also canceled our honeymoon flights to Greece. Those were booked under my name. I didn't make any announcements about it. There was no show. But by the time she was flying over the ocean, the entire structure of our engagement was already taken apart. And she had no direct way to reach me to check if I was serious. That silence was on purpose. She returned to the country 5 days later. I didn't know the exact timing because I had blocked her everywhere, but I learned through others. My sister called that evening and asked what was happening. Apparently Lauren had started contacting mutual friends, saying she couldn't reach me and that I was overreacting. That told me 2 things. First, she expected me to still be available. Second, she didn't think the consequences would last beyond her return. About an hour later, there was a knock at my door. Not frantic, not emotional. Controlled, I checked the camera before answering. She stood there with one suitcase and her carry-on, no ex visible, no vacation glow, just annoyance. I stepped outside and closed the door. She started immediately. She said blocking her was immature. That mature people communicate. That she had gone to gain clarity and I had blown everything out of proportion. I let her finish. Then I said there was nothing left to discuss. The wedding was canceled. The ring was returned. The honeymoon was canceled. The vendors were notified. The guests were told. Her expression changed. She asked what I meant about the ring. I explained calmly that since the engagement was over, I had returned it within the allowed time. The money had already been refunded. That was the first sign she was losing control. She said I was supposed to wait, that she thought we would talk after she returned. That she just needed time to compare her feelings and figure out what was genuine. Compare. That word said more than any trip ever could. I told her I'm not something to be compared on a list. If she needed to compare, then the decision was already clear. She said she hadn't slept with him, that it was only meals, walks, and conversations. I told her it didn't change anything. Because the relationship ended the moment she sent that text, and I wasn't reopening the discussion. She didn't leave right away. Instead, she tried negotiating. She said I was being too strict. That real relationships go through uncertainties. That it was unrealistic to expect no doubts before marriage. She described the trip as research. Like she had checked her options and now had better understanding. I asked her one direct thing. If Paris had felt better, would you be here right now? She avoided a straight answer. She said that wasn't fair. That feelings are complicated. That I was making it too simple. That was answer enough. Then she tried another approach. She said the ex wasn't how she remembered. That he was still immature. That he focused only on himself. That she realized I was steady and dependable. She actually used the word reliable like it was a compromise. I told her reliable isn't an insult, but it's also not something you shop around for against alternatives. She moved closer and softened her voice. She said she was ready to overlook the blocking, the cancellations, everything. If we could just start over. She said no one even needed to know the wedding had been permanently canceled. We could reschedule quietly. That's when I saw the real issue. It wasn't about love, it was about how it looked. Invitations had gone out. Friends had seen the Paris updates. She didn't want to be known as the woman who left her fiancé for an ex and returned alone. She wanted to rewrite the narrative. I told her there was no starting over. I had already told our guests. There was no hidden version where we acted like it was just a delay. Then I opened the door, stepped inside, and said the conversation was finished. I told her to leave the property immediately and not return without setting up a time through email to collect anything left behind. She looked at me as if I had struck her. She said I couldn't be serious. I told her I was completely serious. Then I closed the door, I locked it, and I didn't open it when she knocked again. She knocked for about 2 minutes, not wildly. Not shouting, just steady knocks as if she still thought this was fixable. Then the knocking stopped. My phone started ringing almost immediately. Unknown number, I let it go to voicemail. Then another unknown number, then a text from her sister asking me to be reasonable. I didn't reply that night. The next morning I sent one email. Subject, retrieval of personal property. I offered 2 time slots over the following week when I would be home, so she could pick up whatever remained. I made it clear that after that period anything left would be packed and stored at her cost. No insults, no extra comments, just process. She replied within 15 minutes. The tone had shifted. Less sharp, more desperate. She said I was being too harsh and that we needed to talk things out. She said she felt caught off guard by how final everything was. That word almost made me laugh. Caught off guard? She had ended our wedding by text to go to Paris with her ex. I responded within 24 hours. There was nothing unexpected about it. She showed up at the first available time. This time there was no long speech, no talk about passion. She came in quietly, looked around the condo like it was already someone else's, and packed the rest of her clothes and bathroom items. At one point she stopped in the kitchen and said she didn't think I would actually follow through. That was probably the most genuine thing she said. I told her I'm not going to keep someone who wants to explore other options. She nodded, but it wasn't acceptance. It was disbelief. When she finished, she stood by the door and asked if this was truly the end. I said yes. She paused a moment longer, waiting for some surprise turn. There wasn't one. She left with the last of her belongings, and for the first time in weeks the condo felt peaceful instead of strained. I thought that would close the chapter. For about 3 weeks it did. No messages, no unexpected visits. Mutual friends stopped mentioning her once they saw I wasn't interested in revisiting it. Work quickly took over the space. Business doesn't stop when a relationship ends. Then she emailed me, not to fight, not to blame, to ask if we could meet for coffee. She wrote that she had reflected deeply. That Paris wasn't what she hoped, that she had mixed up thrill with real connection. She said she now understood that stability is uncommon, and she had not appreciated it. I read it once and closed it. 2 days later, another email. This one was less carefully written. She said she had made an error, that the ex had already moved on even during the trip. That she felt foolish. She said she missed our everyday life, the shopping trips, the Sunday mornings, the routine. She said she would do whatever it took to make it right. I didn't reply. No questions, no discussion, no meeting for closure. Silence was my response. A week later, she sent one last message. Shorter, less sure. She said she hoped I would think again. That people make errors before major life steps. That ending everything over one mistake seemed too much. I didn't respond to that either, because from my view, nothing was ended impulsively. She made her choice when she canceled our wedding by text and flew off with someone from her past. I made mine when I refused to try out for the role of the safe backup. There is no remaining anger in me about it, just a clear boundary. If someone needs to test you against others to recognize your worth, let them complete that test without you there. She wanted Paris. I wanted security, and I chose not to compete.